my name is Jordan and today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. I read 4 books this month, and before we talk about that, I just want to mention my new background. I'm in my living room now. I was always a little hesitant about this location just because it's like in a dark corner, but the window is like opposite of it, so it actually turns out really good. I finally tested it and it seems like it's pretty good, so I think I might be filming here more often. I do like this. There's not really a lot in the background when I'm in my reading chair, so not saying I'll never film over there, but I think this is gonna be the new location. So yeah, hope you guys like the background. This is my living room bookshelves, and yeah. So let's get into the 4 books I read this month. The first one is The Born Orchard by Sara A. Mueller. This is an adult fantasy. It's a new release. I believe it just came out like April. What, did it come out in April? I don't even know. But I think it came out this year. It's definitely a new release. But like I said, it's an adult fantasy. I did do a full-blown book review on this, so if you're interested in that, you can check that out. But otherwise, I'll give you a little snippet here. So basically we follow this woman, Charm. She is the Emperor's mistress by force. She is his captive, and he is on his deathbed. He summons her to him and basically says, you know, someone has poisoned me. I believe it to be one of my sons. I want you to figure out who did it. And this book is very much, people say it's like a fantasy thriller or a mystery, or like a fantasy whodunit, and it's really not all that mysterious. I personally didn't really care about like who killed the Emperor. For me, the biggest fascination was our main character and just her as a character and figuring out everything about her, because there are these things called bone ghosts that she creates sort of from herself. They have some of her memories, some of her thoughts, some of her, they all kind of like resemble her, but not completely. And there's just a lot of like mystery about it, about all of them, and who knows what and how they're all connected. And it's just really fascinating. And that was the part that I loved the most. And it sort of made me think of like what people go through during traumatic events and how some people will forget things that happened to them because it was so traumatizing that they just can't, you know, they forget it to basically protect themselves. And it kind of had those sort of vibes. It was very and there was a part of me that wished that the author took that and went even deeper. I felt like I really wanted more from this world and this story, and just more of Charm, and just diving deeper into the concept behind what she's doing, if that makes sense. So I think it's a very fascinating book. I thought it was very different than anything else I had ever read before. I think I gave it 4 stars, so it didn't like completely blow me away, because I felt like there were areas that could definitely be improved, and like I said, there were areas that I wish had just gone deeper, darker, whatever. So I definitely recommend it. I feel like it's sort of might be a love-hate book. Some people are gonna love it, some people aren't, but I did really enjoy this. So that was the first book I finished in April. Then I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but that's okay. This follows, so basically there's this woman. She is in like a psychiatric facility of some sort because she was found guilty of killing her husband, and then ever since then she refuses to speak. Like, she never said a single word about the murder, wouldn't answer any police questions or anything like that. So then we follow, so we don't really follow her perspective, but we do get some of her snippets of her diary, kind of like leading up to the murder, so you kind of get these insights into her life. But then present day, we're actually following like a psychotherapist. He actually has been like fascinated by this woman and her story, and so when he sees that a job opportunity is open at this facility that she is at, he jumps on it and he ends up getting the position. He goes there and starts working there, and he he wants to treat her. He thinks that he can help her, even though no one else has been able to get her to speak. And so that's kind of the basic premise for this story. Like I said, we're reading these bits of her diary, and then we're mostly following this psychotherapist's perspective in his interactions with her. So it was good. I did not see the ending coming. I mean, I did, but like minutes before, when you probably are already supposed to be catching on to it, you know? So whatever. I did really enjoy this one, but it didn't really like blow me away either. So I enjoyed it, but I think I also gave this one 4 stars. And then I read The Serpent's Curse by Lisa Maxwell. This is the 3rd book in the Last Magicians series. This is a YA fantasy series that I absolutely love, but this book was slightly disappointing. But I guess before we get into that, let's talk about what the series is actually about. So in the first book, the majority of the book takes place in like the 1920s, or no, the early 1900s. We have people, the magus, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, but they are people who do magic. And then obviously we have normal people who don't do magic. And there's this order that is basically against magic, and they have somehow created this like barrier that goes over the city so that people who have magic can't leave. If they do, they'll either die or they lose their powers if they manage to survive. But most people do not survive crossing this invisible barrier. So we follow this group of people who are trying to obviously stop the order, take down this barrier. It takes place in like New York, so this barrier, the whole point is that once like immigrants come over to America, they get trapped in New York, and if they have magic, then they can't leave. So it's sort of like they're trying to stop people with magic from like getting out into the rest of the world, or in America at least. It's a very fun series. I love the first 2 books, but this one was very disappointing. It's really chunky. It's like over 700 pages, and I just felt like, so a big theme or a big thing that's going on in this series is they're trying to find all these magical artifacts that they think are just going to help them take down this barrier or whatever. And this whole book was just all of our main characters just trying and failing to get these artifacts over and over and over again. And we already went through that in like a huge chunk of the book 2. And then it just kept happening again and again in this book. It was very disappointing. There's one more book in the series. It comes out this like fall, I think, or sometime later this year. So I'm still gonna read it. I haven't like given up on the series or anything. Like, it's still a world that I love with characters that I love. So I didn't hate this book, but it definitely didn't need to be this long, and it just needed something different to happen. And then I found out after reading this that this series was meant to be a duology, and now it's turning into a 4-book series. Like, no wonder why it's full of trash. Like, it's just extra shit. I don't know. So, a little disappointed on this. High hopes for book 4, the last book in the series. Hopefully it ends with a bang, and we get past all the endless cycle of just failing. And we actually get some good stuff. But I did, like I said, like the first book was like a 5-star read. The second book was 4 stars. I gave this one 3 stars. It's going downhill. It's hard to not be scared for the 4th book, but I'm trying to stay positive. So I do plan, but I think the 4th book is also like really big. I'm not sure though. I don't know. I just hope. It took me 3 months to read this. I started this book in February, and it took me until damn near the end of April to get through this thing. I kept putting it down and reading other things because I just was trying not to let this book put me in a reading slump. So, but yeah, love the series, but this 3rd book was, it just like was not necessary. So the 4th and final book I read in April is Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. This is the 1st book in the Codex Alera series. This is an adult fantasy series, and this is actually a reread. It's a 6-book series, and I've only read the first 3, and I was like years ago, and I've been wanting to get back into it, so I'm starting from the beginning. So I have to reread the first 3 books and then hopefully finish the rest of the series. I'm really hoping if I just read a book a month, then I can complete this series this year. At least that's the plan. But yeah, this is a great like beginner fantasy book. It's really easy to get into. There are like multiple perspectives, but it's not, I don't think it's like too confusing, and a lot of the characters are like connected to each other, so I just feel like it's really well done and it's easy to follow along. It's not like you're jumping, you know, every other page to a new character and you're like, who are all these people? He does a really good job of introducing you to the characters, and the chapters are like kind of the perfect length. Like, they're not too long, but you spend enough time in each person's perspective to get to know them before jumping into a new one. So one of our main characters is Tavi. He's a 15-year-old boy, and he does not possess magic. And the magic in this world is fury crafting, where basically people kind of get like elemental companions. So there are these like creatures called Furies that are made up of like various different elements, and like I said, they kind of befriend humans, and then the humans can control them and use them to fight or help them do various things. So Tavi cannot do this, and that is very unusual. It's actually not very heard of like at all for someone to not be able to do this. So he gets bullied with about it, and it's something he struggles with. I mean, he's 15 years old, so he's very down on himself and kind of, you know, like, it sucks, you know, you can't do magic. It's understandable. But he finds other ways to deal with situations without it, which actually kind of gives him an advantage in this world where everyone has Furies. You know, he doesn't need to rely on them for various things, but he also has to think more strategically of how to fight people with Furies. So it kind of puts an interesting spin on it. But then we also follow, you know, like I said, other characters as well. And really what this book is about is Tavi and his uncle are going out to try to bring the sheep back in, herd the sheep back in. And while they're out, they encounter a Marat, not sure how to say that, but they are like a different species almost, but they're like kind of similar to humans, but different in other ways as well. And they're kind of like enemies. There was like a whole war in the past where like a Marat horde just like came in and they had to fight it. So the Calderon Valley is kind of like the gateway, you know, between the Marat and like the rest of the country. And so when they encounter this Marat, they end up, you know, kind of fighting him. His uncle gets wounded. They end up running off, trying to run away and stuff. Then from there, they're trying to like warn people that the Marat are coming, you know, that there might be another horde, that war is coming. And then there's also this kind of conspiracy that someone within the empire is working with the Marat to start a war. So there's people trying to get news to the empire that, you know, like one of your lords is like trying to go against you, trying to fight you, whatever. So it's a really good story. It's a good entry into the series, and each book, at least the first 3 books, each book gets better and better in my opinion. Tavi grows with each book. He gets older. So it's a really fun series, fast-paced. They look like chunky books. Like this was a 600-page book, over 600 pages. And I believe other books are larger, but the font's really not that big, and I think if this was a full-size book, it wouldn't be 600 plus pages. So they go by really fast. I absolutely love this series, and I can't wait to continue. So let me know down below, what did you guys read in the month of April? What are you planning on reading next month? What are you reading right now? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to talk to you guys about it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.